Surrender is not giving up. This is not to say, I'm giving up now. I don't care if it happens or not. Not at all. Surrender, the way I see it, is I believe so deeply that I get to have this thing, that I get to make this thing happen, that I get to create this thing, that I am willing to release control and let the universe do its part. Because there's always a co-creative energy happening, right? We're doing our part and the universe is doing its part. But a lot of the times we try to control the how, try to control the universe telling us how we're gonna make something happen. And we try to make all the to-do lists and figure out all the steps. And we won't take action unless we know every little thing that has to happen. But it's like, if you just believe that you got to have it and that it was going to work out, could you release that and not try to worry about it? I think the biggest thing around surrender is just not worrying.
So welcome back, everyone. I am excited to interview my next guest. She is an author of 15 books. She's a coach that wants to help you live your dreams, and she has online courses that help you clear your external and internal baggage. I mean, who doesn't need that? And she's currently doing a really fun, feel-good life project on TikTok, right?
Yep.
And she has a new book out called F the How. So welcome, Jennifer. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, as I had mentioned a little earlier when we were talking before the interview, I have like so many questions. But first off, I want to start off. Tell me about your book and like, how did you get there? I mean, that's quite the title.
Yeah. So I honestly feel like I've been living the process of what's in that book, the F the How process that I call it. I feel like I've been living it my whole life, and I just didn't know what to call it until January 2021, when I was meditating and I was kind of in like a journaling state. And suddenly that phrase downloaded to me, F the How. And I thought, oh my God, that's it. That's what I've been doing my whole life. And what I mean by that is in manifestation and in life, there's this belief that we have to know how we're going to make something happen in order for it to happen. And if you don't know how, you have to figure it out yourself. The problem is with a lot of things, the bigger dreams, the, really big, audacious goals, we don't normally know how that's going to happen. And so what ends up happening is we don't go after them. We don't believe we can do it. We play small. We don't allow ourselves permission to go for what we really want. And how I've bypassed that my whole life before I knew to call it this was I just decided I was going to get to have it. I didn't have to figure out how. I was going to take the action that I could think of to take or that I knew to take. And I trusted that there was something bigger out there working with me to bring me what I needed to know, to bring me the information, the process, the steps, the people, the whatever it is, to connect me to making that thing come true. And that is always what has happened. And in January 2019, I manifested a divorce. And when I did that,
wow.
I started to connect the dots of, wait a second, there's a process to this that I've been using unconsciously that I now know how to actually implement. And then in 2021 is when I really started to call it F the How.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the steps. Are there easy steps? Because I know as an entrepreneur, and I work with so many entrepreneurs, how do I do something? I think that's probably my most common question that gets asked of me. How do I do this?
Yep.
So is there an easy step-by-step process that maybe some of my entrepreneurs can go ahead and implement?
Absolutely. Yep. So the first step is getting clear. You have to know what you want or you can't make it happen, right? You have to be very clear on at least the general idea of what it is. So I want to start a podcast. I want to write a best-selling book. I want to, whatever, right? You have to know exactly what it is you want. And this can apply to anything, not just business, but, since we're talking business, specifically to that. So that's the first step, being really clear. And I think for most people, we know what we want to do. We know what we dream of making happen. We may not be admitting it to ourselves, but we definitely know what it is. So step one. Step two, and this part really comes down to having some sort of a spiritual connection. So believing that there is whether you want to call it God, source, spirit, energy, whatever you want to call it. There's something greater out there operating on our behalf, helping us co-create. And the second step is where you decide to ask for what you want and surrender the outcome to the universe or to God or whatever you want to call it. Like I said, believing that not in surrendering, you're not giving up. So that's the biggest thing is when I tell people step 2 is surrender, a lot of times they're like, oh, surrender, really? Like I'm just supposed to hope that it happens and give it up. No.
That's hard though, isn't it? I
Right.
mean, do you have any tips on how to surrender? Because that's
Yeah.
really hard just to kind of let go.
It is. It is. So the first thing I would say is surrender is not giving up. This is not to say I'm giving up now. I don't care if it happens or not. Not at all. Surrender, the way I see it, is I believe so deeply that I get to have this thing, that I get to make this thing happen, that I get to create this thing, that I am willing to release control and let the universe do its part. Because there's always a co-creative energy happening, right? We're doing our part and the universe is doing its part. But a lot of the times we try to control the how, try to control the universe telling us how we're going to make something happen. And we try to make all the to-do lists and figure out all the steps. And, we won't take action unless we know every little thing that has to happen. But it's like, if you just believe that you got to have it and that it was going to work out, could you release that and not try to worry about it? I think the biggest thing around surrender is just not worrying. And
Right.
the way I would
Right.
recommend to do that is every day how you have to just and sometimes multiple times a day, reconnecting to yourself that you believe that you get to have this and that it is not your job to figure out how. And this takes practice. So it's not something that you can just bam overnight, all of a sudden you're so great at surrender. It took me years to get better. And I still have times where it's harder to surrender certain things. But I've learned that in being able to do that, the universe will do so much on my behalf that I don't have to do. And then what ends up happening is all the steps you think you need to take, you get to skip over a lot of that. And you just get to do the stuff that you actually enjoy and the stuff that, feels good to you. And the gap gets filled in by the universe. So step 2 is always surrender. It's always about knowing and believing you get to have it, knowing that you're working with a co-creative energy that wants you to have what you want or something even better. And then you just believe that and remind yourself that you're believing that. It's not to say that you're never going to think about it again. You're never going to worry again. Of course, that's going to happen. We're human. That's just going to happen. So when it does happen, it's reminding yourself, no, I'm not going to worry about this. The universe is handling it. And the way I like to see it is if you believe that this has been delegated to the universe and you believe the universe is handling it, what would you be doing right now? Well, you wouldn't be worrying, right? Because you would know that it's being handled. It's like if you had an employee and you said, hey, could you take care of XYZ thing? You're not now going to micromanage that employee. Well, I would hope you wouldn't. You're not going to try to control what the employee is doing or how they're doing it. You're just going to believe that by asking them to do this thing, it's being taken care of and you don't have to worry about it anymore. So you're basically removing this thing from your plate.
That's
Same
a
thing
really,
with surrender.
really great analogy. I mean, it really
Glad.
is.
Does that make sense then? Good. Just came to me. But yeah, so that's kind of the idea is you're taking it off your plate. You're saying, this is being handled already. I don't have to worry about it or figure it out anymore. So that's step 2 in the process. And then step 3, and this is the most important step, is to become a vibrational match. Now, what that means is that you are matching the frequency of the thing that you want. Now, there's a lot of, quantum physics type stuff into this. So just the bare minimum of it, everything in the world is energy, including you. And everything, because it's made of energy, has a vibrational frequency that it vibrates at. If you want things that you desire to have to come to you, you have to match the frequency of those things. And the way I like to see it is you believe that having those things, creating that podcast, starting that business, doing whatever is going to feel good to you. That's why you want it. So in order to magnetize those things, in order to actually bring them into your life, you have to feel good too, because that is matching the frequency of the thing that you want. So what most people do is they want something, they believe that having it is going to feel good, but then they spend most of their time worried that it's not going to happen and feeling doubtful about it. And that puts you in basically an opposite state of the thing that you want. So it can't come to you in that state. But when you become a match to it and you are in that energetic state of, I believe this is mine, I believe it's happening, I get to have it, etc., not only can the thing come to you, but so can the how, the steps to get there, the ideas, the divine downloads, the nudges, the, oh, wouldn't that be cool? Or, you're just sitting there and bam, an idea pops in your head. Like that kind of stuff can't happen when you're not matching the vibration. So the more you can be in a state of choosing to believe, and it is a choice, like you choose over and over again to believe this is happening, to believe it's possible, to believe that you can do it. And when you do that, you're matching the frequency of it. Now the ideas can come to you. Now the clarity can come. All the things you didn't have before are now available to you because you're matching the frequency. So that is your most important job in this entire process, is
It's
to be
almost
that
like
match.
it's almost like being open too, isn't it? Being
Yeah,
open
absolutely.
to the possibilities, not being closed-minded, and then letting everything. The way you described it, I almost feel like it's being in sync, right? That there's a wave that's going up and down, and you're trying to fall into that same, as an analogy,
Yeah.
right? Try to fall into that same sync so that everything goes the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially, yeah, when you're doing that, you're matching the thing, and now you're in alignment with it. Like you're saying,
Hmm.
you're kind of on that same vibe of it. So now the how can come to you, the steps can come to you, the people you might need, the resources you might need, the money you might need, whatever is required for you to make the thing happen can now come to you because you're in that state of, I believe it's going to happen. I'm matching the vibration of it. I'm choosing to think good thoughts about it and feel a good feeling about it as well, right? Because our feelings are the most magnetic tool that we have. So that is step 3. And like I said, I believe that is the most important step in the whole process. And you could literally skip the other steps, the first couple. And if you just feel good all the time, you're going to be a magnet to good things happening in general. And
No,
that's
I,
just
I
true.
agree. And I also think too, people like being around people that they like, right? And if you're feeling good and you're happy, I think that just draws more of the same as well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, that's not to say you're not going to have moments where you feel bad, or we're all
Right.
human. It's going to happen. My thing is, I say 51%. Can you feel good?
Hmm.
Can you be in belief? Can you be in that surrender 51% of the time? And if you can, that's the tipping point, right? And of course, you want to be more than that as much as you can. But if you can do it 51% of the time, you're golden, right? You're better off than you would be on the opposite. So yes, match the vibration, be the match, and now you're in the state of being able to receive. Like you were saying, you're open.
Right. Right.
So that's step 3. Step 4 is basically taking inspired action. And I like to see this as a couple of things. So first, you do the things you know to do, right? I want to start a podcast. Okay. You probably start researching podcast options. You might start thinking about what the topic is that you want to start it on. You might, start thinking about episodes you might want to do or people you might want to interview. You're doing the things you know to do. That's kind of goes along with it. The other part is the inspired part. It's the part that when you're doing what you know to do, when you're in that state of taking action, believing it's going to happen, in surrender, and also matching the vibe of it, you get these nudges. Things just come up. Like, for example, I was saying I wanted to get out there more and spread this message more. And I was in Beyond TV Boot Camp for that purpose. And then I saw your post talking about your podcast. And so it was just these little things. That was an inspired nudge. I felt, ooh, I should reach out to her and say, I would love to talk to you about this topic.
Right. I think there's
So,
no coincidences in life. I think
right.
everything happens for a reason, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And when you're in that state of belief, that state of knowing you get to have it and you're matching the vibe, that's when those little things pop up. And another example I could give has to do with like my screenwriting career. So another thing I do besides writing books is I write screenplays. And I've been over the last few months really getting focused on this is something I want to do more of, spend more time with. And so it's not a coincidence, I don't feel, that all of these little things have popped up along the way. So there was first a romantic comedy screenwriting contest where I could submit a script to this contest. Right after that was another one based on female-driven content. So it was basically if the main character was female, you could enter the script in that contest. Right after that, I was on Instagram and I happened to just start following this screenwriting group, and they posted about a contest they were having. And it was just like all these little nudges along the way. Once I made the decision that this is what I'm going to be, this is what I'm going to do, that I don't have to know how it's going to happen, and I can just choose to do my part, which the things I know to do, write a screenplay, put myself out there, and trust that the rest the universe is going to bring to me. And so that's the do your actions, but also be open to the inspiration. So I've been able to have all these opportunities popping up related to my screenwriting. Once I made that decision that this is what I was doing, I was clear on it, I surrendered the outcome, I became a match to it by taking the actions, by believing that it's going to happen, that it's possible. And then the inspiration has come as well. So that's your step 4. And then the final step, I would say, and this is also a hard one, I think, for a lot of people, is trust and keep going. So as humans, we tend to believe that things have to happen quickly, that we're in this, and I think it's just a societal programming that we have been taught that things need to happen quickly, overnight success, like all that stuff. But the truth is, you never get to decide the timing. Yeah, you might pick a time and you might say, I'm going to do this in the next 6 months, and maybe it will happen in that time frame. But if it doesn't, this is the key here, is that you trust and keep going. You don't say, oh, it didn't happen now, it must not be for me. It must not be something that's going to work out. It must not, because that's kind of what happens is if it doesn't happen in the time frame we think it should happen in, suddenly we're like trying to convince ourselves it's not going to happen, and we're getting into doubt and fear and all that stuff. So it's reminding yourself over and over again, no, the universe is on it. This is absolutely going to happen for me, and I'm going to keep going, right? I'm going to trust and keep going. And that is hard, right? So I've been in business for 10 years and I did not, well, technically more than that, but full-time for 10 years. I did not think it was going to take me 10 years to get where I am right now. And I still feel like I'm not where I quote unquote should be, but it's not up to me to decide the timing of when everything is going to be the way I want it to be. I have to trust and keep going. Most people in my situation would have quit by now. They would have believed it's not going to happen. It's not possible. And that's not to say like I haven't had some success. I have, but I definitely don't feel that I'm at the level that I, again, quote unquote, should be for how long I've been doing this. But I also had a lot of years where I was figuring out and getting clarity on what I wanted to be doing. So the momentum I've had over the last couple of years has been a lot of the years coming before that kind of got me to the place where I now know what I want to do. I'm focused on it. I'm taking action on it. But it took me a long time to get there, So, and I mentioned before, manifesting my divorce. I was in that process of surrender for over 6 months. Nothing was happening. It literally looked like nothing was happening. Nothing changed. Nothing was ever going to change. And at the end of the year, that year that I was doing it, I could have decided this is not going to happen. I have to figure it out now. I have to take back control of the how. But I didn't do that. I decided, nope, it's working. I believe it. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, which was feeling good, tapping into that state of feeling love, feeling like I had the relationship I wanted. And not long after that, one day it just, bam, magically appeared. My ex just my husband at the time sat down and was just like, I don't know how to say this, but I want a divorce. And everything that I had been doing up until that point came to fruition in my physical reality. But it was a trust and keep going, right? Because I could have said at 3 months, at 4 months, at 5, at 6, that it's never going to happen. And I could have just given up. But I didn't, because I knew what I wanted. I trusted and believed that I got to have the relationship that I wanted. And I just kept going. Same thing with business. So I wanted to be a best-selling author. I believed it was going to happen. I believed it was possible. And I did what I needed to do in that process. And it did happen. But it doesn't happen in the timing you think. And in that case, it happened faster than I thought it was going to. So I thought I needed the whole year that year to write more books and get more following and all this stuff. That was none of those steps were even necessary. I wrote one extra book. It hit number 1 in my category and I became a best-selling author. So it never happens in the way you think it's going to, which is why the how, spending time on that is so pointless. Mm-hmm. And that's what this process is really about. It's about knowing that you get to have what you want. You never have to figure out how. You just have to do your part and let the universe do its part.
Right. And keep on going.
And keep going.
And
exactly.
Absolutely keep going. It's interesting because I think we have a moment of synchronicity because I literally I do these, I have a new series. It's kind of like a Wednesday coaching. And I recorded that yesterday about, again, not quitting because you're on the precipice of what it is that you're looking for. Yep. So it's very, very similar as well.
Well, it's true. Exactly. Like what you're saying. It's true because you don't know the timing. You can't see all of the things that are happening in the unseen, like they say. And a lot of times if what you want is so different than what you have right now, there's a lot of rearranging that the universe has to go through to get you where you want to be. So it's not trying to put pressure on the timing. or allowing the timing not working out the way you thought it would to be a reason that you give up, that you stop trusting, that you stop believing. Because it's like, it could be right there, right ready to break through the next day. And then you start doubting it and you push it further away.
Right. Or you quit. Yeah. And you
Right.
walk away or something like that.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I think with entrepreneurs, mindset is a really big thing. I would say it's more than 50% of whether someone is successful or is not successful.
Yep.
So I think I saw something that you had done, or something is called stop and swap, which I absolutely love. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So stop and swap is just my, I don't know, fun way of saying how to like change your thought in the moment. So a lot of times you're not going to notice right away. So we're going to get into these patterns because a lot of us have patterns of negative thinking unconsciously, right? We've just been programmed that way. That's the way our subconscious mind is. So when you're being conscious, you can easily think positive things because you're thinking about it. But the second you're not thinking about it, that's when it becomes a little more difficult because the subconscious takes over. So like you're doing dishes, let's say, or you're working on a blog post or whatever you're doing, you're kind of unconscious and you're not really thinking about what am I thinking? Well, the second you notice, because there will be a moment where you're like, oh, wait a second, I don't want to think that, or I don't want to. So first is awareness, right? It's going to take time and practice for you to get aware of, oh, I'm not thinking in a way that I want to be thinking. Because a lot of us, we just go on these negative thought spirals and we don't catch ourselves. So before you can even stop and swap, it's recognizing that it's happening, right? So give yourself grace on this because it takes practice. It's not something that you can just do all of a sudden and it changes everything. You will start to notice it more often the more you're aware that this happens for you. So you're going to stop. You're going to catch yourself. Oh, I'm thinking something negative. I'm thinking something that goes against. So here's another one. You're worrying about the how. You'll catch yourself worrying about the how, trying to figure it out. That's when you say stop. Now you can actually say the word if you want to. I like to say stop out loud to myself if I can. Otherwise, you can think it in your mind, or you can just kind of put. And what the stop does is it creates a pattern interrupt. So it stops those negative thoughts or the figuring out the how thing. It gives you a chance to regroup, right? So you just stop. Then you can say, what do I want to be thinking instead? What do I want to be believing instead? What do I want to choose instead? And then you're going to say those things to yourself, either out loud or in your head, whatever you need to do. And you go down a positive thought spiral, thinking positively. Like if you were worried about the how of something, like, how am I going to be a best-selling author? Or how am I going to make this podcast popular? Whatever it is, stop. Remind yourself, that's not my job. I don't have to figure out how. The universe is on it. It's being taken care of. I'm doing my part. Like you're just getting yourself into that thinking the way you want to be thinking, believing the way you want to be believing. And you may have to do this multiple times a day, every single day for a while. And eventually you'll get to a point where you catch yourself more often. So that's the most important thing. I think awareness is so key. If you can have awareness, you can change anything. So it's just practicing and giving yourself permission to not be perfect at it, because no one is. Everybody thinks negative thoughts. Even the people you think are so successful and doing amazing things, they still have this stuff going on. It's just they choose consciously that when they catch themselves doing that they're committed to shifting in that moment and not what I say, like staying stuck in it. Because a lot of times when we're thinking negative things, even when we notice that we're doing it, sometimes we're not willing to change it. We're just willing to just keep going down that negative path because it feels comfortable to us or because we're used to that. So it's really giving yourself permission to, when you catch it, immediately put a stop to it. And that's what the stop and swap is. It's stop.
I actually think that that's a really great exercise. It can be used in a lot of different ways, right? In business, like let's say you have coworkers or you have employees, sometimes when something doesn't go the right way, there can be like almost a negative spiral of people talking about things almost in a negative way, and it just kind of gets a little bit out of control. I think as a business person, I mean, that's a great exercise just to do, even with the folks that you work with. Stop. Let's swap. Let's swap out that, on what can it be? What else can we do? Or just more positive thoughts. And then also, even like within a family, I think that's something that can absolutely be used, like with your children, your spouse, or whatever. When something like that starts happening, I mean, I love how you made it like so simple, that, and it's kind of sticky, it's like stop and swap, I think that's great.
Thanks. Yeah. Again, this is just tools that have helped me. So just stuff that I've kind of used for myself. And in business, I think it's great too, because when things do happen, so like, let's say you have an employee and they let you down or something didn't go right or whatever, it's so easy to get into negative thoughts about that person now. Oh, I can't give them this job because they're not going to do it right. Or I just have to do it myself because they can't handle it. Like, stop. It was one thing that happened. It doesn't mean everything is going to not work out now. And then you choose, I can trust this person. I know this person knows what they're doing. And you can get yourself back thinking positively. Or if it's a project you're working on, same thing. If you're feeling that negative, it's not working out, it's taking too long, it's stop. It's going just perfectly. Like, everything is in perfect timing. Everything is going great. Like, whatever you have to do to get yourself thinking the more positive things. And eventually, when you do that often enough, you believe it more, and then it actually starts to be something
Almost
that
like
you just,
snowball, right?
yeah, exactly. And then you think that way more because you're used to that now versus being used to allowing yourself to go down the negative spiral. So, because again, it's comfortable sometimes to just keep thinking negative, even when you notice this is what I'm doing. And I definitely have moments of that in my own life where I just recognize, like, I'm in a really bad mood and I don't want to get myself out of it, even though I've recognized that I'm in a bad mood right now. It's like, I have tools. I know I could get out of this, but I'm just letting myself wallow in it. But with the stop and swap, you don't do that, right? It's literally a commitment to, when I catch it, I say stop, and then I swap it however I can. And you might have to do it again multiple times, but it does work. And for me, it's been the way that I've been able to surrender the how and continue surrendering the how, is when I catch myself worrying about the how, it's stop, not my job, not my part, not my thing to worry about. And then I get back to what I know is my part.
So let me ask you a question. How can entrepreneurs become more intentional, like in their day? Um, are there any if I can say it, tips or tricks, like journaling or anything like that, so that you start your day very intentional, so that you can move whatever it is that you're working on forward and not get distracted in all sorts of different ways.
Yeah. So I would say I'm just going to say the things that have helped me, because these are definitely the things that help me. Journaling for sure. Like, every morning I journal. Either I'll do freestyle journaling where I just get the noise out of my head, or I have intentional, like, specific a journaling prompt I'm doing or something like that, where I'm just sort of setting the tone for the day, or just trying to get myself into that state of, like, feeling good, of knowing what I want to be doing. Another thing is remembering the vision. So I think it's, as an entrepreneur, it's so easy to get pulled off track with this shiny object, and I should do this because that person's doing that and it's
Absolutely.
working for them. And so it's remembering the vision, right? What are you here to do? What is your business meant to be about? What are you wanting to help people with or focus on? So for me lately, it's been reminding myself, I am a screenwriter. I am an author. This is what I'm doing. And so those are my main focuses. And when I can remind myself of that, of what the vision actually is, it becomes a lot easier to say no, or to stop myself from doing all these other side things that I think I should be doing. Because I'm like, wait, that has nothing to do with my screenwriting, or that has nothing to do with moving my books forward. So I can be more focused. I think visioning is huge, right? And a lot of entrepreneurs, like, they do the visioning in the beginning and then they don't necessarily reconnect with the vision every day. So it helps, I think, to
That's
reconnect
a
every
really
day.
great call out. I think that absolutely does happen.
Yeah, and I mean, we get it. Like, business is messy and there's a lot of parts to it, and there's a lot of stuff you have to do, and it can be overwhelming. So it's like, if you know what the vision is, and then you do something, and I think it's Stephen Pressfield who talks about this. First things first. The idea of whatever you know is the most important needle moving thing for your business that day, you do that first before you do anything else, and you commit to that first things first. And if you can do that, then no matter what else happens in the day, you move the needle, right? You did the thing that you knew was meant
Hmm.
to be done. And for me, that's like working on my screenplay or working on my book or whatever I have going on at the moment. It might be revising something or submitting to a contest, whatever activity. But the point is, if you can identify what's the vision, and then what is the most important thing that's going to move that vision forward today, and do that first, before you get into the rest of the things that might happen, then you actually are in a place where you can feel like you're moving forward, even if all these other things are happening or not being
Right.
completed or whatever.
Right. It's almost like what I teach is what is that one thing that you can do to move the business forward, to move whatever it is that you're working on, your vision, whatever it might be, to move it forward. Because otherwise, I think sometimes people think there's so much that happens in a day that get this cloud of overwhelm. And if they can just focus on that one thing, exactly almost like what you said, I think that just it literally clears a path, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a discipline. It really is. It's a discipline and a practice to say, I'm going to choose to do the first things first, right? I'm going to
Mhm.
choose that this is the most important thing that I can do today. And until that thing is done, I'm not getting into anything else, right? I'm not dealing with my money stuff. I'm not dealing with my employee stuff. Like whatever you have going on, it's literally like this activity has to get done first. And once it's done, then I'll check in with my team. Then I'll, do the other things I have to do. Because in my opinion, those other things are going to get done anyway because they have to, right? You have to check in
Mhm.
with your team. You have to check in with your money or whatever it is. But what doesn't have to get done is that one action that's going to move you forward. You don't have to do the one thing that's going to get you to start that podcast or write that book or whatever. But all that other stuff is going to get done. So I say do the first things first. Not only then are you moving the needle, but then you actually feel better and you feel less
Mhm.
resentful about all the other tasks that you have to do. For me, it's like if I don't put my writing first every day, and I do this multiple days in a row, which definitely happens sometimes, I just feel resentful and annoyed and frustrated by all the other things that I have going on in my day. And I'll start taking it out on other people where I'm like frustrated with them or
Oh
being
no.
annoying just because I'm not doing what I know I need to do for myself. So it's like if I just do my writing first, I feel good, I feel better about it. And then whatever else has to happen gets done with a better attitude. And I don't feel so resentful about it, even if it's something I don't necessarily love doing.
Right. I think you brought up a really good point though. Is it's really important with whatever it is that you do that you have to feel good about it,
Yeah.
right? And it just makes such a difference. I think when you feel really good and you're really passionate about whatever it is that you're doing, again, it's the same thing. It's almost like the path gets cleared and all these things start falling into your lap.
Yep.
I think like almost attracts like. Again, very same thing, vibrational energy, whatever it might be, if God's sending something your way or whatever, you believe in, but I really believe in that.
Yeah, no, it's completely true. And I think, again, in the doing the things that feel good to you, you're matching the vibe of what you want. So
Hmm.
more of the things can come to you, more of the ideas, more of the process or the how. Versus if you're forcing yourself to do things that don't feel that good to you, you're in an opposite state of what you want. So you're literally trying to make something happen in a way that doesn't feel good to you.
Hmm.
And in my opinion, and like I said, I've been in this for 10 plus years now, doing the things that you think you should do versus doing the things that feel good to you have a completely different outcome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, you're on the Professional Rule Breaker podcast. So, I have to ask you this question.
Sure.
So, what makes you a rule breaker? Because I know you're a rule breaker. So, what makes you a rule breaker?
Um, I mean, I think it's just that I'm a dreamer and I just believe that the dreams and the desires that I feel inside me are real and that I get to have them and that I get to create them and that I get to live the life that I desire to have. And even though that's not what I was taught growing up and that's not what anyone around me believes as well, but I've just always been a dreamer and I just always from a very young age. And I remember being like 10, 11 years old and working on short stories and just knowing that like that was what I wanted to do with my life was write books and turn those books into movies and just I just knew from a very young age and I was always that person who was interested in something and would just find a way to do it no matter what it was, whether I had to take a class or read a book on it or whatever. I just always found that way. And I think that the rule breaker thing is more just about believing in yourself and knowing that you get to have what you want and that if something doesn't work for you, you absolutely have permission to cast it aside, whether it's a rule, whether it's a standard of someone else, whether it's a expectation or a way that typically something gets done. It's like if that doesn't work for you, if that doesn't feel good to you, you absolutely get to decide that that is not something I'm entertaining in my life, in my mind, and that's it. And I mean, it's a challenge, I know, because we're brought up in a society that doesn't want us to think for ourselves, doesn't want us to make our own choices, wants us to just go with the crowd. But
And like do the same thing. Everybody do the
yeah.
same thing as
Oh
well.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely my family to this day still has a lot of fear around what I do in my life because I don't have as stable of a life that everybody else has as far as like I don't have this like go to work every day, have the job and do these things and then I'm not married and I don't have kids and like so it's like I have a different life than they have and to them it's like it's scary and it's like I'm not
But does it make
safe.
you happy?
Exactly. And it
Yes.
does. Right. Exactly. It makes me happy. And yeah, it's not to say that it's not scary at times to think like, I don't know what next month is going to bring. I don't know because it's not as predictable as a situation where you have a day job and you have somebody telling you what to do and paying you every week. And like, it's not as stable in that way, but I've created my own version of stability and I've created my own version of knowing that it's only going to get better from here and trusting that every day I get closer and closer to all my dreams coming true.
Absolutely. You and I are both dreamers, so I can totally agree with that. So so
I mean, I
tell me,
think you have
go
to
ahead.
be an entrepreneur, you really
Oh
have
my
to be.
gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think I don't know if I know any entrepreneur that's not a dreamer. Do you?
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's kind of like one of those key components in being an entrepreneur and being good at it is like you have dreams and you have vision and you want to bring that to life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me what's next for you?
Oh, what's next for me? Okay, well, definitely continuing on the screenwriting and writing more books for sure. I have a couple in the works right now. As well as like screenplays, like I said. And I'm finishing up. You mentioned the Feel Good Life project. So I've been doing those videos since April 1st. So I'll be doing them till the end of the month. They'll be on my TikTok channel. So if anyone wants to check those out, like they could definitely do that. They'll be there. And so finishing that up, maybe turning that into a book at some point. Who knows? I've been thinking about it for a long time. So we'll see. Uh, but otherwise, it's really just continuing on the path that I'm on because I finally feel like after all these years and all the different things I've tried out and the different ways of doing things, and because I am super multi passionate. So that is another reason it took me so long to get here because I was doing this and doing that and doing this and doing that. And when I look back, I've done literally everything I could have ever imagined wanting to do as far as like I started a t-shirt line and I had a magazine and I had this and I had that. And none of it stuck like the writing and the books and the screenplays has. But if I hadn't given myself permission to do all that stuff first, I couldn't have come to the place where I'm at now, where I'm very clear on what I want and am now focused on actually making it happen fully. So I think it's just continuing that path and continuing that journey and just trusting that it's all going to unfold and I don't ever have to know how.
That's absolutely true. And I think too, visions change, right?
Yeah.
The businesses change. Where you are right now will be different in 5 years, 1 year from now.
Yeah,
So,
it's true. I mean, it's so true. And actually, until the very end of 2020, I was a book coach. I was helping people write books. I was coaching writers and entrepreneurs and helping them to write and publish books. And I did that for almost a decade. And I was doing story coaching. So I was coaching fiction writers. I was also coaching nonfiction writers, just a lot of things. I was also editing books. And that was my business for almost my entire business until I got to the point where I realized all that stuff was great, but it's not what I meant to be doing fully. And I was putting my actual dream, my actual vision kind of on the side of that stuff because it was like, well, that's what makes me money. And that's what my business is about. That's what people know me for. But it was just like, no. And in fact, I did this exercise that sort of changed everything. And this might be really helpful for everyone listening. It can be a little intimidating and scary to do this exercise. I'm going to warn you now. But
uh-oh.
I call this exercise fast forward to the end. You're at the end of your life. It is the final day on earth. You're literally about to take your last breath. And you look back on your life. And what you're seeing is what you've created based on only keeping on the path that you're on right now. So, like, you didn't change anything. You're exactly where you are right now, but just continued forward for the rest of your life. Are you seeing what you wanted to see? And when I did that, and I'm getting children now, I was talking about it. When I did that, what I saw was a multi-million-dollar coaching business, helping people write books, helping people become authors. And it was beautiful. But what I didn't see was the one thing that I always knew was meant to be about for me. And that was seeing my books turned into movies, seeing my stories on the screen, on Netflix, whatever. I didn't see that because staying where I was at that time, I wasn't putting any energy into that really. It was just a side thing. And that's when I realized that's a great life. And I would be completely, it was great. It was great. But looking at that, I felt like my life had been a waste. And it's hard to say that, but it's true, because not that helping people wasn't great. It is. And I still love helping people and I still do that. But now that is a side thing. And my main thing is what I know I'm meant to be doing. And I know by me doing what I'm meant to be doing, I'm helping way more people. Helping people is great. Being a coach is great. But for me, it was like, that was always meant to be the side effect of it, right? Like, you do the thing you're meant to do, and then all that other stuff unfolds. But what I did was put the cart before the horse. It was like, I built this coaching business, not having done the thing I wanted to do first. So now I'm still doing that. It's just not in the same way. And I'm focused on what I know is the actual vision for my life. And trusting, obviously, that the rest will come along with that.
Wow. Well, that's a really great place to end the interview. It's a very thought-provoking question.
Well, if anyone tries it,
process.
I would love to hear what comes up.
Oh, absolutely.
So reach out to me on social media. Let me know.
Well, I was going to ask, so where can people find you?
Okay, so I'm on Facebook. Obviously, everybody's on Facebook. I'm on Facebook at The Feel Good Life, or Dream Life or Bust. Either one. My business page is Dream Life or Bust. My personal page is The Feel Good Life. I'm on Instagram at The Feel Good Life as well. I'm most active on my TikTok, which is F the How, but with the word spelled out. So you can find me there, or you could just search, Jen B or whatever, and you should be able to find me. And yeah, those are the main places that I hang out on social media, and I love it. And it's fun, and I would love for you to try these exercises that we talked about here and share what comes up, because I think it can be really powerful if you just give yourself permission to be open-minded and to give it a try.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we will make sure that all your contact information is in the show notes. And I appreciate the really deep, thoughtful exercises that you gave us today. I think they're really useful, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're not an entrepreneur. So thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate having you on as my guest. And for all the listeners, if you like what you heard today, please check out Jennifer's links and also give us a 5-star review. And again, everyone, have a wonderful day and live very intentional.